Hello, I'm going to be talking about Sidney Pratten's Guitar School. This is part 2. I did part 1 a couple of weeks ago now, I think. So I've been a little bit delayed getting to this part, but this is going to be really fun here. We have some exercises for the left hand. Where I left off last were exercises for the right hand, some arpeggios. So some of these exercises for the left hand are actually kind of similar to what 21st century guitarists play. So I'm on page 49, and this is exercise 100. So there are quite a few little nifty tricks in there for the left hand to work on. I'm going to go through this pretty quick because there's a lot of material. So the next exercise, 101, this is almost like something you would find in Shearer's Slur, Reach and Ornament Development Exercise book. This just repeats up and down the fret, up the fretboard. And so on. So it's interesting to see that in a 19th century method book, from the middle of the century. It's kind of similar to what we use today. On the next page, page 50, there are a couple of really cool left-hand exercises here. So again, they're kind of focused on slurring. 102 is a pretty long one. Starts right up here, the fretboard, and moves its way up to the higher positions. So. So that's a pretty extended slurring exercise. It's pretty fun. And then at the bottom of the page, number 105 is one that I enjoy playing. It's kind of tricky to get that very clean, especially when you have that pull off. So that's exercise 105 on page 50. And I will be putting a link to the method book at the end of the video. On page 51, we have an exercise for glissé. So the glissé is like a glissando, that effect. So this is in the form of a mazurka. This is very tricky. So I'm only going to play a little bit of it because she really goes pretty crazy with the glissé here, going all like up and down the fretboard. So. And you get double glissé. tricky after that. We get this kind of glissé. Very interesting to see that an exercise where like using this much glissé, it's almost like we would consider it almost like bad technique. You're literally sliding your first finger up the first string a lot. But I think 19th century guitarists, I say this fairly often, I think they're all about finding as many effects as possible and just using them. Glissé, vibrato, strumming, tone color changes. Then there's an exercise for slurs, 107, exercise 107. This is pretty fun too. Okay, now the book on page 52 starts to get into a new section now. Exercises in positions. Now this is something I think guitarists can really benefit from, and I think we don't practice this enough. Basically she has a whole bunch of keys and exercises, scales, arpeggios and chords in different positions of the fretboard. So I'm just going to do the C major portion here. So we have a C major scale and then a little sort of cadence at the end in 5th position. Then we have a similar thing now in 7th position. A kind of a mix, starting in open position and going to 5th and then back to open. Like that. Now we have some chords shifting up and down the fretboard. Arpeggios. Then we have scales in harmony, in 3rds, 6ths, octaves and 10ths. This is something that I've been practicing for a while, and until I started practicing them, I didn't realize how often we have passages of music that are constructed in 3rds, 6ths, octaves and 10ths. That's a scale in 3rds. I'm just thinking off the top of my head of Lagrima. We have a passage that's moving in 10ths here from E to G, F to A, G sharp to B, D sharp to F sharp. So if you play the scale, an E major scale in 10ths, see that it's kind of constructed from that. So she has a scale in 3rds, a scale in 6ths, scale in octaves, So, as well as being musically relevant to pieces, I think they're also great exercises for the left hand. And you can also turn them into exercises for the right hand. You could play them with a tremolo or some kind of arpeggio pattern. Things like that. So that's the this section here, exercises and positions. We have major keys, goes up to B major, and then we get some minor keys, all in that same kind of layout. So you have scales, arpeggios, chords, all in different positions. Then the next section of the book on harmonics, starting on page 65, very detailed, a lot of detail about harmonics. And I've actually found this to be the case in a lot of method books from the 19th century. I think they were really into harmonics, yet another effect, glissé, vibrato, strumming, tone color changes, harmonics, orchestral imitations, just another part of their whole package of effects that they had. So I wanted to play an example. She has a diagram of, where you can play harmonics, 5th fret, 7th fret, 12th fret, etc. She has a scale in harmonics on page 69, an E major scale. So that's pretty interesting. And then she has a melody. It's titled Ma Normandie. So this is a melody all in harmonics. So that's a really cool effect, I think, to play a melody entirely in harmonics. It's quite challenging too. It's you have to really think about what. Okay, I think we're back. Just had a disconnection problem there. So I just played a melody entirely in harmonics. And now I'm at the last part of the book, which is a selection of pieces. So she has pieces by Legnani and Saw, and she also has some original pieces. One is a theme original, which I've recorded, and I also did my own variation on it, and I had some people write some variations as well. So we've collected about 5 or 6 variations, and soon I'm going to release a video and a score of variations on a theme by Pratten. But what I really want to focus on now is her Spanish dance, because it's a fun little tune, but it uses a lot of effects. It uses tambura and various kinds of strumming, all combined together. So it's really interesting, really fun. So this is on page 72. So I'll play it through from the start to the finish. Glisses there. Now tamburo, strumming. there's a Spanish dance. She has indicated all of these effects with the right hand with various symbols, which she actually identifies at the start of the book. She defines what each symbol means at the start of the book. So we have the drum effect, strumming, glissé, all like from measure to measure. You have all these different effects happening. You also get backwards strumming, like that. And then you also get different types of strumming as well, like that kind of just using the index finger, and then this kind of raschiato, which she calls a twirl, followed by a glissé. So lots of different effects in a very short musical example. This is basically it. There is an interesting, the very final piece in this book is God Save the Queen with Variations by Kreutzer, or Kreutzer. So you'll probably recognize the theme, especially if you're Australian or British. She has some pretty neat, this composer has some pretty neat variations. The second variation is reminds me a little bit of variations on a theme by Mozart. That kind of texture. And then the next variation, you have these octaves. Sixths here. So earlier on I was mentioning how she has scales in thirds, sixths, octaves and tenths. So we had octaves. And now we have sixths. Slow sort of slow variation there. And then the final variation, it's kind of like a coda. So that's the final variation. I probably should practice some of those passages a bit more. Very fun little set of theme and variations here. Might be good for maybe an encore piece or something. A lot of people around the world are familiar with God Save the Queen. So it'd be kind of interesting, I think, to play this for the public. I haven't done that yet. Maybe one day soon I will. But so that's the conclusion of Sidney Pratten's guitar school. I think it's one of the most informative, detailed, and interesting method books from the 19th century. And the next video I will be talking about her father's two method books, one called Instructions for the Spanish Guitar, and the other 150 exercises for the Spanish guitar. Both of them are filled with great exercises and pieces and that kind of thing. So stay tuned and thanks for watching.